The great chamber on Telmara Prime gleamed with cold metal and strange lights. Captain Jihu Kang stood in the center, surrounded by beings from 12 different worlds. Some had scales, others had fur, and a few glowed with their own light. They all stared at him with the same look, suspicion and fear. Jihu wore his dress uniform, dark blue with silver buttons. He kept his back straight and his face calm, even though his heart pounded in his chest. Behind him sat Director Yuna Park and Admiral Hyun Lee, the only other humans allowed in the chamber. They had been waiting for 3 hours. The Velcrin ambassador finally spoke. His voice sounded like rocks grinding together. Captain Kang, humanity stands accused of terrible crimes. You have built forbidden weapons. You have researched dangerous technologies. You have broken every agreement you made when you joined this council. Jihu took a deep breath. We have broken nothing. The facilities you found in the Outer Rim are not ours. Then whose are they? The Velcrin's 3 eyes narrowed. Perhaps they belong to whoever wanted to frame us, Jihu said clearly. Perhaps they belong to the species that broke into our secure networks last year. Perhaps they belong to you. Angry sounds filled the chamber. Several aliens stood up from their seats. The Velcrin ambassador's skin turned darker, which Jihu knew meant rage. You dare accuse us? The Velcrin shouted. We who have maintained peace for 10,000 years. Peace built on control, Jihu replied. Peace that fears anyone who grows too fast or thinks differently. Director Yuna touched his arm, warning him to be careful. But Jihu was done being careful. He had spent 5 years in this council, watching them dismiss human ideas, block human proposals, and treat his species like dangerous children. Show the evidence, the council leader said. A tall being made of crystal and light. Images appeared in the air above them. Research stations on dark asteroids. Weapons that could tear apart stars. Labs full of machines that looked like they came from nightmares. And in every image, human writing on the walls. We found these 3 months ago, the Velcrin said. Hidden in unclaimed space. All marked with human language. All using human technology. Jihu studied the images carefully. Something felt wrong. The stations looked too new, too perfect. Real research facilities were messy, lived in. These looked like sets from a movie. Director Park, Jihu said quietly. Show them our evidence. Yuna stood and pressed a button on her device. New images replaced the old ones. These showed Velcrin ships near the facilities, dated 6 months before their discovery. They showed supply shipments from Velcrin worlds. They showed Velcrin workers building the stations. We've been watching too, Yuna said calmly. Your spies aren't as invisible as you think. The chamber exploded with noise. Aliens shouted at each other in a dozen languages. The Velcrin ambassador's face went dark purple. The crystal leader raised its hand and silence fell like a hammer. These accusations help nothing, the leader said. We will debate in private. The humans will wait outside. Jihu, Yuna, and Hyun left the chamber. They stood in a cold hallway while their fate was decided by beings who had never trusted them. They've already made up their minds, Admiral Hyun said quietly. The old soldier had fought in Earth's last war before first contact. He knew how enemies thought. This trial is just for show. Then why? Jihu asked. Why this elaborate setup? Because they're afraid, Yuna answered. In 75 years, we've matched technology it took them thousands of years to develop. We've colonized 43 worlds. We've built a fleet that rivals theirs. They don't fear what we've done. They fear what we'll do next. 3 hours passed before they were called back inside. Jihu knew the answer before anyone spoke. He could see it in how the aliens avoided looking at him. He could hear it in the heavy silence. The crystal leader's voice was formal and cold. The Galactic Council has reviewed all evidence. We have debated long and carefully. The vote is 11-1. Humanity is found guilty of violating council law. The sentence is banishment. Jihu felt the word hit him like a physical blow, banishment. It meant more than just leaving. It meant everything they had built among the stars would be lost. All human colonies outside the Sol system must be evacuated within 6 months, the leader continued. All trade agreements are ended immediately. All diplomatic relations are severed. Any human vessel found beyond the quarantine zone will be destroyed without warning. This is our final word. Who voted against? Admiral Hyun asked quietly. A smaller alien stood up, one with silver skin and kind eyes. I did, the Talmori delegate said. This is not justice. This is fear wearing justice's mask. You make a terrible mistake today. The Talmori always were soft, the Velcrin muttered. Jihu walked to the center of the chamber one last time. He looked at each alien council member, memorizing their faces. When he spoke, his voice was steady and strong. You fear what you do not understand. You mistake our ambition for aggression, our curiosity for threat. We came to you as friends. We asked only to learn, to grow, to be part of something greater than ourselves. You welcomed us with smiles and kind words, but those were lies. Captain Kang, the leader began. I'm not finished, Jihu said firmly. You cast us out because we succeeded too well, because we reminded you that your empires are not eternal. You could have taught us, guided us, helped us become better. Instead, you chose fear. You chose to push away the one species that actually believed in your council's stated ideals. He paused, letting his words sink in. We will leave. We will abandon the colonies our children were born on, the cities we built with our own hands, the dreams we planted among distant stars. But remember this day, Council. Remember it was your choice. Remember that you had a chance to make allies of humanity, and you chose to make us something else entirely. And what is that? The Velcrin asked mockingly. Jihu smiled, but there was no humor in it. You'll find out eventually. We humans have a saying, what doesn't kill us makes us stronger. You haven't killed us today. You've just made us very, very motivated. He turned and walked out, followed by Yuna and Hyun. Behind them, the great chamber fell silent. The aliens sat in their seats wondering if they had just made a terrible mistake. The Talmori delegate watched the humans leave and whispered a prayer for the galaxy. Things were about to change in ways no one could predict. Outside, standing under alien stars, Jihu looked up at the sky. Somewhere out there was Earth, humanity's home and now their prison. He had 6 months to evacuate millions of people, to pack up decades of work, to retreat in shame. But as he stood there, a strange feeling grew in his chest. It wasn't despair. It wasn't even anger anymore. It was something harder, something colder, something more dangerous. It was determination. They think they've seen what humanity can do, he said quietly. They have no idea. Admiral Hyun put a hand on his shoulder. What now, Captain? Now. Jihu looked at the stars one more time. Now we go home. We regroup. We rebuild. And we show them what happens when you back humans into a corner. The evacuation would begin tomorrow. The retreat would take 6 months. But humanity's real journey was just beginning. The evacuation was chaos from day one. Ships filled with families, crying children, and people who had never seen Earth. They came from 43 worlds, each colony abandoning homes built with decades of sweat and dreams. Captain Jihu watched them arrive at Sol System like a defeated army retreating from war. The last convoy came through 6 months later, exactly on deadline. Velcrin warships watched from a distance, making sure every human left. Jihu stood on the bridge of his ship, an old man now, watching the scanners. When the last human vessel crossed into Sol System, he felt something break inside him. That's it then, his second officer said quietly. We're home. No, Jihu replied. We're caged. Earth was not ready for millions of refugees. Cities overflowed. Food became scarce. Jobs disappeared as the galactic economy closed to humanity. The first year was the hardest. People who had lived among the stars now stood in unemployment lines. Children who had played under alien sunsets now crowded into Earth schools, telling stories no one believed. Riots broke out in every major city. In New York, crowds burned down the Galactic Affairs building. In Seoul, angry mobs attacked government offices. People wanted someone to blame for their suffering, and the government was an easy target. Then came the elections. Min Ho-han was a businessman from Busan, a man who had made billions in interstellar trade and lost it all in the banishment. He ran for president with a simple message. They wanted to bury us. Let's prove them wrong. He won by the largest margin in history. President Min-ho's first act was declaring a state of emergency. His second was announcing the Ascension Protocols. Nobody knew what that meant at first. Then the work began. Dr. Sora Choi had been a researcher on a colony world, studying advanced neural interfaces. The council had called her work dangerous. Now she stood in a new laboratory deep under the mountains of Colorado with unlimited funding and a simple order. Make us better. She worked 18 hours a day. Her team combined human neurology with advanced computing. They took the forbidden technologies the council feared and pushed them further than anyone thought possible. The first breakthrough came after 3 years of failures. We can link human consciousness directly to computer systems, Sora told President Minho in a private meeting. A pilot could become part of their ship, thinking at computer speeds, reacting faster than any alien. Side effects? Minho asked. Headaches. Nausea at first. But after adaptation, none. The volunteers all report feeling more alive, more aware. How many volunteers do you need? As many as you can give me. The Shadow Fleet program began in secret facilities scattered through the asteroid belt. Commander Jia Shin, a young tactical officer who had been only 15 during the evacuation, led the training. She was part of the new generation, people who grew up angry, who channeled rage into excellence. "We're not building a regular fleet," she told her trainees. "We're building something the galaxy has never seen. You won't just fly ships. You'll be the ships." The neural enhancement process took 6 months per pilot. It changed them, made them faster, sharper, more focused. But it didn't make them less human. If anything, it made them more aware of what made humanity special: adaptability, creativity, the refusal to give up. Meanwhile, engineer Taeyang Wu designed the ships themselves. He threw away every rule the galactic community followed. Why build big, slow dreadnoughts when you could build small, fast fighters? Why use conventional engines when you could bend space itself? His quantum fold drive broke every law of physics the Council knew. It didn't travel through space. It folded space around the ship, appearing instantly light years away. And best of all, it left no trace that Council sensors could detect. The first test flight almost killed the pilot. The second killed 2 engineers when the ship exploded. The third, fourth, and fifth tests failed in different spectacular ways. Taeyang wanted to quit. "One more try," President Minho told him. "That's all I ask. One more." The sixth test was different. They used a neural-enhanced pilot, a young woman named Yunji, who claimed she could feel the ship's pain in the previous tests. She sat in the pilot's seat, closed her eyes, and let her mind merge with the ship's systems. "I can feel it," she whispered. "The fold, the space between spaces. I can see the path." She engaged the drive. The ship vanished from Earth orbit and appeared near Proxima Centauri in 7 hours. The journey that should have taken Council ships 3 weeks. She came back grinning like a child. "It worked," she said simply. It actually worked. That was year 12 of isolation. By year 20, humanity had a fleet of 300 Shadow Fleet vessels. By year 30, they had 2,000. Every ship was crewed by volunteers who underwent neural enhancement. Every ship could appear and disappear at will. Every ship carried weapons that combined human innovation with alien technology stolen during the evacuation. But President Minho knew ships alone weren't enough. He started the Education Initiative. Every child learned warfare, diplomacy, engineering, and xenobiology simultaneously. They studied alien psychology, memorized the weaknesses of every Council species, learned to think like their enemies. "They took 50 years from us," Minho told graduating classes. "We'll use those 50 years to become unstoppable." Dr. Sora's team made more breakthroughs. Biosynthetic integration let humans merge organic tissue with machinery, creating self-healing ships and adaptive weapons. Consciousness backup systems meant pilots could survive situations that would kill them, their minds transferring to new bodies. Each advancement pushed humanity further from what they had been, closer to what they needed to become. The old Captain Jihu lived to see much of this. Now in his 80s, he taught at the military academy. Students would gather around him asking about the trial, about the evacuation, about how it felt to be banished. It felt like dying, he told them honestly. Like everything we built meant nothing. But I was wrong. It meant everything. Every insult, every closed door, every time they treated us like dangerous animals, all of it made us stronger. They thought banishment would destroy us. Instead, it forged us into something they never imagined. Year 45 brought the first successful colonization mission. They sent a small fleet to an unclaimed system, far from Council space, and built a hidden colony. They called it New Seoul. More followed: New Tokyo, New Lagos, New São Paulo. Small settlements connected by quantum communication networks, invisible to Council sensors. By year 50, humanity had 27 hidden colonies, 4,000 Shadow Fleet vessels, and technologies that made Council science look primitive. They were ready. They had been ready for years. But President Minho waited. "Why?" Commander Jia asked him. "Why wait when we could strike now?" "Because we're not the old humanity anymore," Minho replied. "We don't just want to win. We want to change everything. When we reveal ourselves, it has to be at the perfect moment. We get one chance to shock the galaxy. We can't waste it. That chance came in year 50. A council patrol detected strange energy signatures near Haven's Rest, an old human colony world. They investigated and found evidence of recent human activity. Tool marks, discarded equipment, traces of quantum fold technology. The message reached the council chamber within days. The same chamber where humanity was judged 50 years ago. The aliens looked at each other with growing fear. They're still out there, the Velcrin ambassador said. Older now, but still hateful. The humans. They never left. Find them, the council leader commanded. Find them and finish what we started. Deep in the asteroid belt in a secret command center, alarms began to ring. Admiral Junho Park, son of the late director Yuna, read the reports with a cold smile. They found us, he said to his staff. Finally, he activated the quantum communication network, sending messages to every hidden colony, every Shadow Fleet vessel, every enhanced pilot waiting in the darkness. The message was simple. The wait is over. Prepare for war. Captain Nari Song was 23 when she led humanity's first official colony expedition beyond Sol System. Her ship, the Silent Hope, carried 500 families and enough supplies to build a world. She had volunteered for neural enhancement at 18, and now she could feel her ship like it was part of her body. Quantum fold in 3 minutes, her co-pilot announced. Nari closed her eyes and felt the space around them. She could sense the fold points, the places where reality bent. It was like seeing music or hearing colors, something no unenhanced human could understand. Folding now, she whispered. The universe twisted. For a moment that felt like forever. They existed everywhere and nowhere. Then they emerged in orbit around a blue-green world nobody had ever named. It was perfect. Water, atmosphere, the right distance from its sun. And most importantly, it was far from any council patrol route. Welcome to New Sol, Nari announced to her passengers. Building the colony took 2 years. They used advanced fabrication technology developed during isolation, machines that could print entire buildings from raw materials. They planted crops modified to grow in alien soil. They established defensive satellites hidden in the asteroid belt. Most importantly, they stayed silent. No broadcasts, no loud engines, no energy signatures that might attract attention. If any council ship passed nearby, they would see only an empty system. Nari returned to Sol System and immediately volunteered for another mission. By year 5 of the expansion, humanity had 27 hidden colonies. Each one was a fortress disguised as a peaceful settlement. Each one built ships, trained soldiers, and prepared for the day they would reveal themselves. But the expansion brought an unexpected discovery. Dr. Isil Yang was a xenobiologist on the colony ship that found the Talmori station. It was ancient, abandoned, drifting in deep space. Most captains would have avoided it. Dr. Isil insisted they investigate. Inside, they found something shocking, a message waiting for humanity. We knew you would come here eventually, the message said in perfect human language. We've been watching. You have done well. If you want allies, come to these coordinates. Come alone. Come ready to listen. Dr. Isul brought the message to President Minho Han, who was now in his 70s but still sharp as a blade. It could be a trap, Admiral Junho warned. Or it could be exactly what we need, Minho replied. We can't conquer the galaxy alone. We need friends. Dr. Isul went to the coordinates in a single ship. She found a Talmori delegation waiting, the same species that voted against humanity's banishment 50 years ago. Why help us? Isul asked their leader, an old Talmori named Shen. Because we know what you suffered, Shen replied. The council almost destroyed us too 300 years ago. They left us only because we submitted completely, gave up our weapons, our pride, our future. We've watched them do this to others. We're tired of being afraid. The Talmori became humanity's first alien allies. They provided intelligence on council fleet movements, maps of their territory, details of their weapons and defenses. More importantly, they provided something humans desperately needed: legitimacy. When the time came to reveal themselves, having Talmori support would show the galaxy that humanity wasn't alone. There are others like us, Shen told Dr. Isul. Species the council banished and forgot. Find them, unite them, show the galaxy there's an alternative to the council's tyranny. Exploration teams found the Kryn first. They were silicon-based life, living on a harsh volcanic world. The Council had banished them 400 years ago for refusing to share their unique mineral processing technology. Centuries of isolation had reduced them to a primitive state. But they remembered. Oh, they remembered. When human ships arrived, the Kryn elders wept. They thought they were alone in the universe, that the Council had erased all memory of them. "We haven't forgotten," Captain Nari told them. "And now neither will the galaxy. Join us. Rebuild. Together." The Lumen were next. Beings of pure energy trapped on a single world by Council force fields. They had been imprisoned for 600 years. Human engineers studied the force fields for 3 months, then disabled them in a single night. "You're free," the engineer team leader said simply. The Lumen didn't speak with words, but their joy was obvious in the way they danced through their atmosphere, creating patterns of light that looked like laughter. The Vectar were insect-like beings, a hive mind that terrified the Council. They had been banished 1,000 years ago, longer than any other species. They had forgotten most of their technology, most of their history, but when humans offered them friendship instead of fear, the Vectar queens made a decision that echoed through the entire hive. "We join you," they said as one voice. "We fight beside you. We remember our enemies," but humanity didn't just gather allies. They did something that shocked even their new friends. They helped Council species in secret. Governor Hana Lim ruled the colony of New Lagos. She was reviewing intelligence reports when she saw it. A Velcrin mining colony suffering from a plague. The Council had quarantined the planet, essentially leaving 20,000 Velcrin to die rather than risk spreading the disease. "We should let them die," her security chief said. "They're the ones who pushed hardest for our banishment." "No," Hana said firmly. "We're not them. We don't let people die to make political points." She sent the report to Admiral Junho, who sent it to President Minho. 3 days later, a human medical team arrived at the Velcrin colony in stealth. They worked through the night, treating the sick, distributing medicine, and teaching the Velcrin doctors how to cure the plague. When they left no sign they had been there. No symbols, no messages, no credit taken. The Velcrin thought their prayers had been answered by some mysterious force. But people talk. Stories spread. Across Council space, rumors began to circulate about the Silent Guardians, mysterious helpers who appeared in times of crisis and vanished without a trace. Some said they were ghosts. Others said they were a new species. A few suspected the truth but were afraid to speak it. Each rescue mission was a risk. Each time Admiral Junho argued against them. "We're exposing ourselves," he said. "Every mission increases the chance they'll discover us before we're ready." "Let them discover us saving lives," President Minho replied. "When the truth comes out, I want the galaxy to remember we had the power to take revenge and we chose mercy instead." The military buildup continued. Every colony became a shipyard. Every asteroid was hollowed out and turned into a fortress. Humanity developed weapons that made Council technology look like children's toys. Gravitational disruption mines that could tear a ship apart at the molecular level. Phased energy weapons that ignored shields completely, nanite swarms that could disable entire fleets in seconds. Each weapon was tested, refined, perfected. But the greatest weapon was something no Council species had thought to develop: complete integration between pilot and ship. Enhanced humans didn't fly their vessels. They became their vessels. They thought at computer speeds, reacted faster than any alien, and worked together with a coordination that came from shared neural networks. By year 20 of the expansion, humanity had 150 colonies, 10,000 shadow fleet vessels, and allies among 4 previously banished species. They had rescued Council civilians 37 times, saving over 200,000 lives without ever claiming credit. They were ready for war. But Admiral Junho Park had learned patience from President Minho. "We wait for the perfect moment," Junho told his fleet commanders. "We wait until they find us, until they commit to attacking, until the entire galaxy is watching. Then we show them what 50 years of isolation created." That moment came sooner than expected. The Council patrol at Haven's Rest did more than just find evidence. They captured a human supply drone that had suffered a malfunction. Inside its computers, they found part of the truth: encrypted messages, coordinates of hidden colonies, proof that humanity never stopped expanding. The Velcrin took the evidence to the Council chamber. This time there was no debate, no trial, no pretense of justice. The humans are like a disease, the Velcrin ambassador declared. We tried to quarantine them, we failed. There's only one cure for a disease that won't stop spreading. We must burn it out completely. The council voted unanimously. For the first time in their history, they would unite their fleets and destroy an entire species. They assembled 10,000 warships from 8 different species, the largest military force ever gathered in galactic history. Their target was simple, Sol system. They would sterilize every planet, destroy every station, and make sure humanity never threatened anyone again. They gave humanity 30 days to surrender. Admiral Junho Park stood in his command center, watching the council's ultimatum broadcast across all frequencies. Around him, his staff waited for orders. He smiled slowly. It's time. Send the message to all colonies, all ships, all allies. Tell them the galaxy is about to learn what happens when you corner humanity. What message? His communication officer asked. Just 3 words, Junho replied. They're coming home. Fleet Admiral Doyun Ko stood on the bridge of his flagship and watched the council fleet arrive at Sol system. 10,000 alien warships dropped out of faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. They filled the space between planets like a swarm of angry insects. That's a lot of ships, his second officer said nervously. It's not enough, Doyen replied calmly. He was 48 years old, had trained in military academies since childhood, and had spent his entire life preparing for this moment. Every simulation, every war game, every strategy session had led to this day. The council thought they were dealing with the same humans they banished 50 years ago. They were wrong. Open a channel, Doyen commanded. All frequencies. I want the entire galaxy to hear this. His face appeared on every screen across council space. Humans watching from hidden colonies held their breath. The council member species watched with confusion and growing fear. This was not supposed to be possible. Humanity was quarantined, isolated, defeated. I am Fleet Admiral Doyen Ko of the Free Human Fleet, he began. His voice was steady and strong. You came here expecting to find us cowering, desperate, ready to surrender. Look around you. Does this look like surrender? As he spoke, human vessels decloaked throughout Sol system. They had been there all along, invisible, waiting. The council sensors went crazy as thousands of ships suddenly appeared. But these weren't the old, slow vessels the council remembered. These were Shadow Fleet ships, sleek and deadly, each one humming with technologies the council had never seen. 50 years ago, you judged us, Doyen continued. You found us guilty of crimes we didn't commit. You banished us from the galaxy. You thought isolation would break us. You were wrong. It made us stronger, smarter, more dangerous than you ever imagined. Behind him, images appeared in the broadcast. Human colonies on dozens of worlds, advanced shipyards, weapons that looked like they came from nightmares, allies among the banished species, everything humanity had built in secret. We could have lived peacefully in our corner of the galaxy, Doyen said, but you couldn't leave us alone. You had to come here to our home with your fleet and your threats. You wanted to finish what you started. Now you'll learn why that was a mistake. The Velcrin fleet commander laughed, a harsh sound that echoed across the communication channels. Big words from primitives. You're outnumbered 10 to 1. Surrender or die. You assume numbers matter, Doyen replied. Let me teach you something about humanity. We don't fight fair. We fight to win. The Battle of Sol began without any more words. The council fleet advanced in a standard attack formation, thousands of ships moving together like they had in hundreds of previous wars. They expected the humans to retreat, to try to escape, to scatter in fear. Instead, the human fleet charged directly at them. Captain Siwoo Han led the first strike. He was 27 years old, the son of President Minho Han, and one of the best neural-enhanced pilots in the fleet. His ship, the Eternal Defiance, was small enough to fit inside the Council's capital ships but fast enough to dodge their weapons. All squadrons, follow me, Siwoo said calmly. Show them how humans dance. His squadron of 50 ships folded space, appearing instantly in the middle of the Council formation. The aliens didn't have time to react before human weapons tore through their hulls, phased energy beams that ignored shields completely, nanite swarms that ate through armor like acid through paper. Then, before the Council could respond, the human ships folded again, appearing somewhere else in the formation. It was like fighting ghosts. The Council ships fired at empty space while humans attacked from impossible angles. "This is impossible," the Velcrin commander shouted. "No species can move like that." "Welcome to the future," Admiral Doyen replied. The battle lasted 6 days, not because the Council was winning, but because it took that long to destroy 3,000 of their ships. The humans used tactics no one had seen before. They deployed gravitational mines that tore entire battleships apart. They used quantum fold jumps to appear inside Council vessels, destroying them from within. On day 3, Captain Siwu did something that became legendary. His ship was damaged, shields failing, surrounded by 5 Council cruisers. Instead of retreating, he performed a fold jump with his destination coordinates inside the Council's largest carrier. "Siwu, no," Admiral Doyen shouted. "That's suicide." "Not if I'm fast enough," Siwu replied calmly. His ship appeared in the carrier's main hangar bay. For 3 seconds, he was inside an enemy vessel, surrounded by hundreds of fighters and thousands of crew. He fired every weapon he had, set his reactor to overload, then folded out just as the explosion began. The carrier broke apart from the inside. 5,000 Council crew died in seconds. When Siwu emerged, his ship was barely holding together, but he was alive. "Did that really just happen?" his co-pilot asked in shock. "It did," Siwu grinned. "And now everyone knows it's possible." That was the moment the Council fleet broke. Their commanders realized they weren't fighting a conventional war. They were fighting something new, something terrifying, something that ignored all the old rules of combat. Ships began retreating without orders. Some squadrons simply fled at maximum speed. By day 6, the Council fleet was in full retreat. They had lost 3,000 ships and gained nothing. The vaunted Council military had been humiliated by a species they had dismissed as primitive, but humanity didn't stop. "They came to our home to kill us," Admiral Doyen told his commanders. "Now we take the fight to them. Operation Thunderclap begins now." General Yuri Bak was 51 and had fought in every human conflict since the evacuation. She was hard, efficient, and absolutely merciless when it came to protecting humanity. She led the ground forces component of Operation Thunderclap. 12 Council military installations across the galaxy, she told her troops. "We hit them all simultaneously. We destroy their ability to make war, and we do it in a way they'll never forget." The attacks happened at exactly the same moment. Human ships appeared at Council military bases on 12 different worlds. They didn't just attack. They invaded, enhanced soldiers with biosynthetic modifications, fought through defenses that should have been impossible to breach. At the Velcrin Navy's main shipyard, General Yuri herself led the assault. Her troops captured the facility in 4 hours. Instead of destroying it, they reprogrammed the automated systems to send a simple message. "We could have killed everyone here. We chose not to. Remember that." Similar attacks happened across Council space. Each time, humans had overwhelming superiority. Each time, they could have slaughtered everyone. Each time, they showed mercy to the civilians and workers, only targeting military assets. The message was clear: humanity was more advanced, more capable, and more moral than the Council. Within 3 months, the Council lost 1/3 of its military capacity. Their economy collapsed as trade routes became too dangerous. 3 species withdrew from the Council completely. The Talmori openly declared their alliance with humanity. The Quinn Collective and the Drayan Hegemony both announced they wanted diplomatic relations with humans. The Council chamber descended into chaos. Species blamed each other for the disaster. The Velcrin ambassador screamed about betrayal. The Crystal Leader tried to maintain order but failed. For the first time in 10,000 years, the Galactic Council was falling apart. Ambassador Era Kim, a young human diplomat who had been born during the isolation, appeared on all galactic channels. She was 39, brilliant, and had a gift for saying exactly the right thing at the right moment. "People of the galaxy," she began, her voice carrying to 1 billion worlds. "The Council told you we were dangerous. They were right. We are dangerous to tyrants who abuse their power. We are dangerous to empires built on fear and oppression. We are dangerous to anyone who believes might makes right." She paused, letting her words sink in. "But we offer something the Council never did, a real choice. Join us in building a new galactic community based on respect, not domination. Based on cooperation, not submission. Based on the idea that all species deserve freedom and dignity. Or," she continued, her voice hardening, "stand with the Council and learn what happens when you threaten humanity. We didn't start this war, but we will finish it. The choice is yours. Across the galaxy, species watched and wondered. The old order was dying. Something new was being born. And at the center of it all was humanity, the species everyone thought they could safely ignore. Captain Siwoo, recovering from his injuries in a military hospital, watched Ambassador Era's broadcast and smiled. Dad was right, he said to his visiting mother. They didn't break us. They just gave us time to become unstoppable. His mother, now the Minister of Defense, nodded. The hard part is next. Winning the war is easy. Winning the peace is much harder. We'll figure it out, Siwoo replied confidently. We're human. That's what we do. High Chancellor Jihu Kang was 83 years old when he returned to Telmara Prime. He walked slowly now, his back bent with age, but his mind was still sharp. The great chamber where he had been judged and banished 50 years ago looked exactly the same. Cold metal walls, strange lights, the same seats where aliens had condemned his species. But everything else was different. Where the Galactic Council once sat, now there were empty chairs. Where 12 species had ruled with absolute power, now there was silence and dust. The old order was dead. Today they would build something new. Are you ready? Ambassador Ara Kim asked him. She was 43 now, one of the most respected diplomats in the galaxy. I've been ready for 50 years, Jihu replied with a slight smile. The first session of the Commonwealth of Free Worlds was about to begin. Species came from across the galaxy. 73 had agreed to join in the first year alone. Some were former council members who recognized which way the wind was blowing. Others were species humanity had helped during the isolation years. Many were the banished and forgotten, finally given a voice again. The Talmori delegate Shen, now very old, stood to speak first. I voted against humanity's banishment 50 years ago. The council ignored me. They thought I was weak, foolish, too sympathetic to primitives. I was right and they were wrong. That's why I stand here today, free, while they are scattered and broken. The Kryn representative, a massive silicon being named Core, spoke next. His species had been primitive when humans found them, reduced by centuries of isolation. Now they were rebuilding, their technology advancing rapidly with human assistance. The council abandoned us 400 years ago. Core's voice rumbled through the chamber. They left us to die, forgotten. Humanity remembered us. Humanity saved us. We will never forget that debt. Similar stories came from the Lumen, from the Vector, from dozens of species. Each had suffered under the council. Each had been helped by humanity. Each now wanted to be part of something better. But not everyone came in peace. Former council representatives demanded to speak. The Velcrin ambassador, old Torval, who had pushed hardest for humanity's banishment, stood with difficulty. He looked shrunken now, defeated. You call this justice? He shouted, his voice weak but angry. You destroy the council, invade our worlds, and now you pretend to offer peace. You're no better than we were. High Chancellor Jihu stood slowly. The chamber fell silent. Everyone wanted to hear what the man who started this journey would say. You're right, Jihu said simply. We're not perfect. We made mistakes during the war. Some of our people wanted revenge, not justice. But here's the difference between us and you. We're trying to be better. We're building a system where no species can dominate others, where decisions are made together, not imposed by the strongest. He looked directly at Torval. You judged us 50 years ago for crimes we didn't commit. You banished us for the crime of being ambitious, for growing too fast, for threatening your control. Now you face trial for real crimes. Conspiracy, false evidence, oppression of multiple species. I did what was necessary for galactic stability. Torval protested. No, Jihu replied firmly. You did what was necessary to maintain your power. There's a difference, and now you'll learn what real justice looks like. The trial of the council's leaders took 6 months. Every species that suffered under their rule sent representatives. Evidence was presented carefully, thoroughly. Unlike the sham trial humanity received, this one was scrupulously fair. The verdict was unanimous. Torval and 17 other council leaders were found guilty of crimes against sapient species. Their punishment was banishment to their home systems, forbidden from leaving, cut off from the greater galaxy. The irony was not lost on anyone. How does it feel? Jihu asked Torval before the sentence was carried out. To lose everything? To be cast out by your own kind? To know the galaxy will go on without you? Torval's 3 eyes filled with something that might have been tears. I was protecting the galaxy from you. No, Jihu said gently. You were protecting yourself from the future. The future came anyway. With the trials complete, real work began. Dr. Sora Choi, now 93 years old and working from a wheelchair, presented humanity's technological achievements to the Commonwealth. Neural enhancement, quantum fold drives, biosynthetic integration, consciousness backup systems, gravitational weapons, phased energy beams. We developed all this in isolation, she told the assembly. We could keep it for ourselves, maintain our advantage. But that's not what we're building here. This is for everyone. Use it wisely, use it well, and remember that technology is only as good as the morality of those who wield it. Species that had been technological equals for millennia suddenly had access to game-changing advancements. The Talmori integrated neural enhancement into their medical systems, curing diseases they had struggled with for generations. The Kryn used quantum fold drives to reconnect their scattered colonies. The Lumen developed new applications for consciousness transfer that no one had imagined. But the greatest change was philosophical, not technological. Premier Nari Song, once a young captain and now the leader of the human colonies, established the Pathfinder Corps. Its mission was simple: explore the galaxy, find new species, make friends not subjects. The old council explored to claim territory. Nari told her Pathfinder recruits, "We explore to discover friends. Every species you meet is a potential ally, not a conquest. Remember that." The first Pathfinder expedition to the Galactic Core discovered 17 new sapient species. Some were primitive, others advanced. Each was greeted with respect and offered membership in the Commonwealth, not demanded to submit. Meanwhile, the remnants of the Council struggled. Some species joined the Commonwealth after seeing they had no choice. Others tried to maintain independence but found themselves isolated in a galaxy that had moved on. The Velcrin Imperium, once proud and powerful, refused to accept the new reality. They launched desperate attacks on human colonies, using outdated tactics and old technology. Each attack was defeated easily. Admiral Siwoo Han, now 31 and commanding his own fleet, dismantled their navy piece by piece. They don't understand, Siwoo told his father, President Minho Han, now in his 80s. The galaxy has changed. They can either change with it or be left behind. Some people can't change, Minho replied sadly. They're too invested in the old ways, too afraid of the new. All we can do is give them the choice and hope they make the right one. 5 years after the war, the Velcrin finally sued for peace. Their empire was reduced to their home system and a few nearby colonies. Ambassador Ara Kim negotiated the treaty personally. You have 2 options, she told the Velcrin leaders. Join the Commonwealth as equals with all the rights and protections that entails, or remain independent but isolated, cut off from galactic trade and technology. Your choice. The Velcrin chose isolation. Some species can't admit they were wrong, but most of the galaxy chose differently. By year 10 of the New Order, 147 species had joined the Commonwealth. Former enemies worked side by side on joint projects. The Quinn Collective and the Drayan Hegemony, once Council loyalists, became some of humanity's strongest allies. On Earth, in the city of New Geneva, they built a monument. It listed every human who died during the isolation years, every sacrifice, every person who worked in secret to make humanity strong again. At the top, carved in stone 3 meters high, was a simple inscription. They feared our potential. We proved them right. Not through conquest, but through perseverance. Not through dominance, but through determination. Here stands humanity, banished, broken, but never defeated. High Chancellor Jihu Kang lived to see the monument unveiled. He was 103 years old, the last survivor of the original trial. He stood before the Commonwealth Assembly one final time to announce his retirement. 50 years ago, he began, his voice still strong despite his age. I stood in a different chamber, in front of different beings, and heard them call us criminals. They banished us to protect the galaxy from humanity's ambition. They thought isolation would destroy us. He paused, looking around at the representatives from hundreds of worlds. They were wrong about everything. We didn't fade away. We transformed. We took their rejection and forged it into resolve. We proved that humanity's greatest strength isn't our technology or our weapons. It's our refusal to give up. To every species here today, he continued, remember this. The stars belong to no one and to everyone. What we build here, we build together. Not through fear, but through friendship. Not through domination, but through cooperation. The old council feared us. Perhaps they were right too. But not because we would conquer. Because we would inspire. His voice grew stronger as he reached his conclusion. We were banished, we rose. We claimed the stars. And now we invite you all to join us in the greatest adventure any civilization can undertake. Building a galaxy where everyone is free, where everyone has a voice, where everyone matters. The chamber erupted in applause that lasted for 10 minutes. Species from 100 worlds, beings of every shape and size and composition, united in recognizing what humanity had accomplished. Jihu stepped down that day, content that his life's work was complete. He died peacefully 6 months later,